Wow. I think I accidentally forgot to cancel. Editing is going to be required for that video. I thought I stopped the video when I stopped to talk to my wife. It looks like it was still running, and you don't need to hear what that conversation was about. Everything's fine. My wife's fine. Nobody died. Thank God. I literally was thinking somebody must have died if she's hunting me down at the lake. But no, completely random. And if that did get on the audio or the video, I will be editing that shit out before it gets posted. Everything's fine, but you don't need that. You don't need that kind of level of detail. All right, so going on, we're talking about my interest in the James Holmes thing. So again, what happened was, as I started to investigate government agencies related to scandals and all these crazy things, Lieber scandal and whatever, and FBI involvement and black ops and whether or not there's funding for mass shootings and stuff like that, all these crazy things that I'm just kind of like, are any of these things possible? At that point, I got promoted at work to the intelligence community. And it was the weirdest fucking thing, because I'm just working with some nuclear information. Then all of a sudden, a job opening comes up unexpectedly, and they ask me if I will take over working essentially for the Department of Homeland Security and special programs being FBI, CIA, all the intelligence agencies, NSA, and things like this, right? And of course, I'm thinking to myself two things. One, that sounds super fucking cool. Like, I'm interested. I'm a nobody, and now I get to be like part of the intelligence community. Fucking, I'm down. And I was told it will require me to get a higher level security clearance. What would be called an SCI clearance. What is SCI clearance? So I had for your information, to educate you, because that's what I like to do, I had a Q clearance. Q clearance is the highest level of clearance you can get. It's top secret in the Department of Energy. The Q clearance is essentially your top secret, right? So there's secret, which is S. And by the way, S, I'm going to give you a whole bunch of education. So an S clearance, for example, I believe is typically just DOD, Department of Defense. There's also clearances given for DOE, the Department of Energy. However, they overlap in some areas. For example, in the area of nuclear weapons. So because a weapon, nuclear, since it's nuclear, it falls under the Department of Energy. And therefore I have to have a clearance because it's nuclear and it falls under energy's purview, because energy and nuclear go hand in hand. But because nuclear weapons are part of our weapons arsenal and work with the military, therefore that part is Department of Defense. Oddly enough, I have to have a clearance for both because it has to deal with nuclear material that could go into nuclear weapons. So then I'm working with Department of Defense and Department of Energy with my security clearance, just as an admin type thing, clerk. But I get promoted, or a job opening gets promoted for me to work with the intelligence agencies now. So now I'm feeling like a bigwig at the time. I'm like, holy shit! Like I'm gonna, and I have to admit, here's a side story. A side story. Okay, I'm flipping. My wife flipped around, and now I'm going to flip around. But, by the way, she's just down here for an errand, and it just so happened that she randomly passed me. So that's what I was trying to explain earlier. There's no emergency, but I decided to join her for her errand. So I'll be stopping this audio in a minute. But oddly enough, my wife, maybe her, but really her mother, when I first started dating my wife now, I was previously married. When I talked about 1.0, I was married to a different woman. I was married to a woman for 14 years. And then I ended up getting divorced and remarrying Rhonda, who I'm married to now. Anyways, when I met her, I now had the title of this new job, which was basically, an administrator of the Department of Homeland Defense and Special Programs, which sounded really fucking cool, and she thought that sounded pretty cool. Fortunately, I don't think that's why she married me. She didn't marry me for the title, but her mom certainly thought that I was a worthy candidate to marry just because of my fucking email header, because I was like, hey, this is so-and-so from Department of Homeland Security and Special Programs, and she's like, oh my God, that guy sounds so important. Reality, it's a low-level job. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was and it wasn't. The reason I say it wasn't is because going back to security clearances. So to get the job as a working in Department of Homeland Security and Special Programs, I had to get an SCI clearance. It's a much higher level clearance. It's what you might call beyond top secret, right? It is secret compartmentalized information. This information, by the way, is not itself classified. So I would never tell you classified information. In case you're wondering if I'm giving classified secrets, I would never give classified information. I believe in keeping my oath, even if the government does sketchy motherfucking shit and doesn't necessarily deserve the protection that we give them. But when we when we get our clearance, we take an oath to the government that we will not give government secrets. Hold on. Yeah. Clearly. Going back home? I don't know where else it would go. I got a recording going right now, so I should probably wrap this up. I'll follow you. If you decide on the way to stop somewhere, I'll pull in behind you. Okay. All right. Hey, we're approaching lunch. Maybe my wife and I will be having lunch. You get a lot of inside look into the life of Lee tonight or today and Rhonda. So anyways, secret compartmentalized information, what you might call above top secret, is just what you kind of hear in the name, compartmentalized. And again, I won't ever give classified information, so I'm not going to betray my oath on those things. Which also leads to the reason why the Devil's Advocate shut down. Because I realized that I was hearing stuff in the secret compartmentalized information spaces. By the way, there's facilities where you can talk about secret compartmentalized information called SCIFs. Again, the existence of SCIFs is not a classified information. So I worked inside of a SCIF at some point. And a SCIF, you have to have super high level security clearance. I got background checked up the ass. And it's a very stove-piped world where people get to work on things, but you don't even, just because you have a clearance doesn't mean you know everything that all the government secrets. You still have to have a need to know. And many people work on projects, they have no idea what somebody else is working on, even inside the SCIF, right? And so I worked in that space. So I got to know what it's like to work inside classified spaces that require high security to get into. Felt kind of important about that. But again, I had to ask myself, I'm starting to investigate FBI involvement in things, CIA involvement in things, different government agencies, the three-letter agencies as we call them in the intelligence community. And then all of a sudden I get promoted to working in the three-letter communities directly as an admin to all these people. And so I freaked out a little bit and told my friend Mike, who is my partner in Devil's Advocates 1.0, I have a hard time believing this is a coincidence. Am I being promoted because someone wants to keep an eye on me, or they want to make a conflict of interest where I can't talk about the things I'm talking about because it would be potentially revealing classified information? And so that led to my paranoia. And so what happened is indeed Mike, who was trying to talk on Devil's Advocates 1.0 about world politics, things that were going on in Israel and stuff, for example, and I'm in classified space and I'm getting briefed on information in the world. I'm like, we can't talk about these topics. We can't talk about world politics because I'm literally getting briefed on those things. And whether or not I'm giving you information or not, because I'm not, I would never give that classified information. I don't know how many times I can say that. I would never give up classified information. But the point being is that the fact that I'm being briefed on things and I'm hearing things, and then my friend Mike's talking about things, if he ever accidentally stumbles upon classified information and says it indirectly, it's going to be assumed that I'm the one that leaked it because he's my best buddy. And I'm going to lose my job and possibly go to jail if they think that I'm leaking classified information. So I was basically saying, ixnay on the fucking world politics shit. You can't talk about foreign governments and shit like that because that's the world I live in. And conversely, I'm starting to investigate three-letter agencies, and that's our business partners. We literally, in the Department of Energy, where I worked, were going after contracts for three-letter agencies and saying, hey, we could do this work that you want us to do. We can do this work that you want us to do. And so they were like business partners that we were going after their work. So then I'm like, okay, I'm blogging, besmirching the reputation of our business partners. If anybody finds out that I'm working for the agencies that I'm besmirching, I'm going to lose my job. So that is a much more detailed version of a 1.0 debacle that I talk about in this audio I was going to maybe post, where Mike and I talk about the debacle and we're still being sketchy about it and beating around the bush. So anyway, so that's the details, right? So when I got to a point that I was feeling like, did I just get promoted to keep an eye on me or whatever, I panicked and told Mike, I'm shutting the site down. I literally pulled the plug on the site without his permission. I shut the site down. I got worried that I was drawing too much attention and it was probably just pure paranoia. In retrospect, it was probably pure paranoia. The government probably didn't give a fuck what I was talking about. So there is that. And then it got really sketchy, and I'll try to end this with why it got sketchy. So what happened around that time is I met some other YouTubers who were covering the James Egan Holmes story and thought, like me, that there was a government element, that maybe the government had itself pulled off the shooting in Aurora, Colorado. And I reached out to them because they had a 3D model they made of the theater of the shooting, and we're trying to place where people were sitting, where the shooter came into the theater, and try to walk through visually and recreate what happened based on eyewitness reports and stuff like that. And I had been reading and listening to eyewitness reports all over the internet and reporting about it regularly. So I reached out to them and said, man, you got this 3D model and you guys are doing some great work. We should all sit together and talk about these things. And they said, okay, let's do that. That sounds great. Somewhere along the line, they wanted to bring me in on a web ring. They wanted to add my website to their website and have a ring of websites tied together so that when somebody hits one of our websites, they could find all the other websites. And they said, hey, here's a banner you can put on your website that links you to us. And it had all these terrorist elements, like people in suicide vests and terrorist looking things with, scopes on it and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, full disclosure, guys, I actually work for the government and have a security clearance. And one of the oaths you take is that you're not involved in any kind of terrorist organization or any organization that's plotting violence against the United States. This will look bad for me. That admission to them freaked them out, and they decided that I was a government plant trying to get on the inside of the conspiracy theory community to rat them all out. Nothing could be further from the truth. I hope that you understand the logic of how this happened. It's an interesting story, one that I can't tell on TikTok because nobody's going to have the fucking attention span for that stuff. Pardon I dropped so many F-bombs. I will work on cleaning that up. I don't need to say so many F-bombs. But I am a vulgar person, and I'm extremely dirty, by the way. So a dirty mind, dirty old man with a bad vocabulary. But I will try to do better. And be a little bit more mature. So, the point being is that when I informed them that I worked for the government and I wasn't comfortable with the banner that had all these terrorist things in it, they freaked out. They called me out. They said that I was now working for the government and I was basically compromised. And the reason why they said they compromised, which comes out in the audio that I may upload of Mike and I's talk 12 years ago, was that when I shut the website down and I told Mike I was out, Mike didn't want to shut the website down. We had a lot of traction going. We had a lot of customers coming to the site, or a lot of interest coming to the site. No money, by the way, no money, just traffic. And he didn't want it to die. So he put it back up. And when he put it back up against my wishes, he wanted to explain why it went dark. And he inadvertently referred to, we've been compromised, that's why the site went down. Well, those who were working, saying that I was a government plant, then took and ran with that. Devil's advocates have been compromised. They've said it themselves. They've been compromised. This new person, and when Mike convinced me to get back writing as devil's advocate, right? And so this is so interesting to me even now. So I got back into writing as devil's advocate, but I had changed my attitude a little bit and was toning it down. So they're like, hey, they've been compromised, and this new person writing as Beelzebub isn't the old Beelzebub. It's a new person. The style's different. Look, it's different. And it was different because I was trying to avoid getting myself fired. All right, that's enough for now. My wife's pulled into a place. We're going to go do some shopping, maybe have lunch. I don't know. And I'll continue this later. I hope you're finding this interesting.